T. Wood's going to use a lot of backs, but it's going to be Ray Redmond who needs to get that running game going and get that established against this tough St. V front seven.
And sometimes in football now, passing can set up the run. With this team, does the run set up the pass more, or is it the other way around?
Well, they're going to find success passing the football, but it will be the run. They need to get the run going, especially because St. V's defense up front is so tough. However, they want to throw the football. They've got Messiah DeWeaver, and they're not using his arm there to just watch. They have also what Coach Douglas calls the best wide receiving core he's ever had, led by this guy. Ryan Lucas, we call him. Coach Douglas calls him Spider-Man. He's got the best hands on the team. He runs the best routes, and there's a couple other guys with Spider-Man that can hurt you. So look for Messiah to use some of those tools and weapons to jump on St. V.
Always love when the coach throws out the nicknames like that. That's right. Coach, defensive game plan now for SVSM. Last year we were introduced, hello Newman, right? I mean, in different ways on offense as well and special teams, right? But defense, this guy can do it.
Yeah, if you run a 4-3 defense, which St. Vincent Mary's does, you better have a beast in the middle. And they do right there in Newman Williams, number 34. He takes away C-gap to C-gap, which means tackle to tackle. And you shut down tackle to tackle, that really limits the team what they can do. And then after you get rid of Newman Williams, who's your other linebacker you talk about? Mr. Football, Dante Booker. He is the guy who they call the stat sheet filler. He does the big plays, the interceptions, the fumble recoveries, the sacks. He's the guy who's the flash and the dash right there. There's one more guy that we haven't talked about yet. It's Vince Lockett, number 28. He is the guy that's a hybrid. He allows them to stay with their base package when teams go 3 or 4 wide. Instead of bringing in another defensive back, they leave him in because he's a good enough athlete, Ryan, as you and I talked about, to cover a wide receiver in the slot.
And what that's going to really help them tonight against Trotwood is as Trotwood changes personnel, brings in more receivers, St. V's doesn't have to adjust. They have their coverage team on the field because of what Lockett brings to the table.
Guys, I cannot believe the names and the athletes that are going to be in this game tonight. I mean, as we've gone down in this show, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I very rarely give him credit, but I give him credit. So this can be like a college football game tonight with all the talent on the field.
I got that one right, huh? Once in a while. And DBU, you know, Coach Douglas, he loves calling it DBU. I love calling it DBU. A big reason for that is since 2002, they're pumping Division I players out, all from the defensive backfield. He believes he has 2 or 3 more to cover guys like Paris Campbell and Tyrese Spate.
And Coach, these are teams that have been there before, so yeah, nerves, but not like if it's a new team.
Yeah, a lot to be said for that, because when you're there the first time, you're excited, okay, and obviously, you know, you're excited the second time too, but you've been through the routine before. This is a Thursday night game, not that big of a difference, but if you're playing at 11 o'clock on a Friday morning and you've been through that before, it's a lot easier transition than it would be your first time down there.
Boy, guys, I'll tell you, I'm fired up here as we're getting closer to kickoff in Massillon. Trotwood Madison taking on SVSM. Only one team can take home the state championship, and we're going to let you know what the keys are and who that team might be after this timeout. Back in 2011, Trotwood Madison beat Avon, guys, 42-28 for a state championship.
I remember that guy, Israel Green. He had 5 touchdowns, I believe. You know, they had to take his jersey out of the case at the school and put it on so Mark Ray Redmond can wear it tonight. That's how good it is.
Now, that was D2. Now we're talking D3, right? And St. Vincent St. Mary, Coach, you just got to go back to last year, 42-21, state championship again. They're 5th in their history.
Yeah, they scored everything. They scored on block punts, they scored on fake punts, they scored on long runs, they scored on long passes. They just kept scoring.
All right, let's get to the keys to tonight's game. And, Coach, let's start with you, and let's talk about Trotwood Madison. And what do you think's the biggest key when it all comes down to it tonight for the Rams?
I'll tell you what, for a team that's going to their 4th consecutive state championship game, they're getting no respect, okay? They're not intimidated. Everybody said, oh, St. Vincent Mary and Toledo Central Catholic, see you in the finals. No, not so fast. So this team steps up. They're going to come out early. They're going to want to punch them in the mouth right away and let St. Vincent Mary know, hey, you're in a dogfight tonight. Because St. Mary has not been in a dogfight all year long. They're in one tonight. 2 years ago was the Israel Green show. Now it's the Messiah DeWeaver show. Watch what that young kid does tonight. He's a special talent, both on and off the field.
You know, one thing that jumped out at me about Messiah, and Frank Stamms at the field touched on this, is Coach Douglas gives him 3 plays. And when Messiah DeWeaver comes to the line of scrimmage, he decides whether they're going to run, pass, or which one of those plays he uses. Chud, you and I talked about that.
That's unbelievable for a youngster.
He's only a sophomore.
Unbelievable. I mean, incredible. And to think this team almost didn't make the playoffs after that 0-2 start.
And one of those losses was a win. They self-reported an illegal player and gave themselves a loss. So credit to Trotwood. And they knew what they were doing. They knew they'd be here.
And Coach makes a great point that a lot of people didn't think they would be here. But I think everybody in the state of Ohio thought St. Vincent St. Mary would be here tonight, Ryan. What is the key to victory for them?
Well, the key to victory is use up all the anticipation and the hype and the excitement and use it tonight. You know, Coach Borman talked about this because I was one of them. They're a shoo-in to get here. Coach Borman and his seniors met before the season. They said, we will not talk about repeating. Anytime a reporter asked Coach Borman about getting back to the state finals, he would cut them off. If a player talked about it, the seniors would stop them. They did not talk about winning another championship until this week. Well, St. V's, you're here. There's no time to talk. Go out there and win it. But you got Trotwood Madison across the field.
This will be by far the Fighting Irish's toughest test of the year. And Coach, I don't know he's in high school, want to throw out predictions, but I kind of came down here thinking that, and we just kind of touched about it, SVSM would win tonight, but you're not saying that's the case.
No, I don't think that they've been truly tested. They're a great team, don't get me wrong. Talent everywhere. But I like a team like Trotwood Madison. They're physical, they're aggressive, they've been here before. They don't care who St. Vincent St. Mary is. So that's why it's not enough to me, but I think Trotwood Madison is going to pull it out tonight.
What a night it should be. Trotwood Madison and Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. It's a battle of a 14-0 team against an 11-2 team as we have 7 games coming up starting tonight. 3 on Friday, and then 3 on Saturday. Should be a lot of fun to see how it goes down. The first one tonight in Division III in Massillon. Matt Underwood and Frank Stams with the call. We'll be back again at halftime to break down the first half, and then again at the post game. Look forward to it tonight. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll see you again at halftime. Matt Underwood, Frank Stams with the call. It's next.
Bushner to throw, going deep. And it is caught. What a play. Down the sideline, a terrific catch made by Dante Booker.
Big catch by Dante Booker there. The stud on defense showing it on offense, Mr. Ohio, as that catch led to a field goal to give Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's a 3-0 lead. Right now, they lead 10-0 at halftime. Hi, everyone. Dave Chudowski with you here in the Hyundai Studios, and this is the Wayside Halftime Show. Of course, the coach, Bill Powers, Ryan Cavanaugh joining me. Ryan, this first half, I mean, really, it was domination by the Fighting Irish.
Defensively, yes, it was. This is the defense that we expected that has held teams to 7 points throughout the entire playoffs. Offensively, the story is Paris Campbell getting injured. He was used sparingly, but from some of the bursts we saw late in that second quarter, we expect Paris Campbell to come back.
Coach, surprised you thought you would see more out of Trotwood Madison in this game, and so far in the first half, we haven't seen that.
Yeah, I said in pregame this moment would not be too big for them, and it's not. But what they got to do offensively, they got to get something going. They have zero rhythm. Are they going to decide to run the ball? Are they going to pass the ball? One way or the other, they got to find something that works that they can hang their hat on that they know they can be successful at.
All right, let's take a look at the first half highlights, and really, it's at 10-0, you don't call it a domination, but there's just not really a lot of highlights for Trotwood Madison. As you see here, they're trying to get something going, and Messiah DeWeaver is picked off there, and that's Nathan Bischoff with the interception return. Doesn't lead to anything, but this next highlight is going to lead to something, as it's another fumble and another turnover, Ryan, for SVSM to get on defense.
Yeah, Newman Williams with a big hit. The Atkins are in there. And, of course, it's Dante Booker who recovers it. All he does is stuff the stat sheet, right, Coach? And there he does, doing it again.
And then, is that hello Newman again? I mean, I'm sorry for the poor taste in a joke, but this guy loves to score touchdowns, Coach, in state title games.
I tell you, he scores them all different ways. You want a punt return, you want a punt block, whatever you want. Give him the ball.
And that made it 10-0. That's our score here at halftime. As you see, DeWeaver, 4 of 11, 56 yards and an interception. Ryan, I mean, we've talked about how smart this kid is, but really just hasn't been able to get anything going.
a lot of that has to do with that St. Vincent St. Mary defense and also his running game. Ray Redmond's a guy we featured, Chud. He's got 7 carries for 2 yards. DeWeaver needs some help, and he needs it from the guys carrying the football.
Well, we talked about a lot of things during the pregame show, and one thing we did mention was turnovers, Coach. And turnovers, we said it was going to play a factor, and it certainly has.
Yeah, and that's why Messiah DeWeaver, we talked about him being a smart kid. He has to come out in the second half and win the game for them because Ryan pointed out earlier, they can't run the football, Trotwood Madison. So they better start throwing the ball and be successful with that.
Messiah DeWeaver's a guy who spent the offseason studying film and trying to mature in the cerebral sense of being a quarterback. He now has to show that he has that so important attribute of a quarterback, and that is a short memory. He's got to forget about that first half, come out and lead this team and put some points on the board.
You'd hate to make excuses, but guys, is weather playing a factor in any of this at all?
Yeah, you saw a few. One of the interceptions that went off the receiver's hand, tipped off his glove. There was 2 drop passes that, again, I think those kids make in normal situations. Whether it's jitters or it's the weather, that can't happen in the second half.
And on both sides of the ball. And it hasn't hurt St. Vincent St. Mary in the way that it's hurt Trotwood, but Paris Campbell's clearly having trouble holding onto the football. 2 consecutive plays, he put it on the turf.
Okay, the Fighting Irish so far have the advantage, up 10-0 here at halftime. We have much, much more coming up here on the Wayside Halftime Show. We'll be right back after this timeout here on Sports Time Ohio.
It again at the controls, gives it to Williams. And will he bulldoze his way into the end zone? Yes, he will. And the Fighting Irish of St. Vincent St. Mary have scored the game's first touchdown.
And Newman Williams says, Ryan Kavanaugh, put me on the all-Kavanaugh team. I love touchdowns in the state championship game. As Newman Williams gets in for the Fighting Irish, that gives Akron St. Vincent St. Mary a 10-zip lead here at halftime. Dave Chudowski back with you. This is the Wayside Halftime Show. Ryan Kavanaugh, Bill Powers. A big story in this one so far in the first half is Paris Campbell Jr. hasn't been out there the whole time.
He hasn't, but when he has been, he's been effective. But it was his first carry of the game, got tackled from behind, looked like an ankle injury, and Paris disappeared for a little while. But he came back, a big run to set up their only touchdown of the half. But, you know, Vince Lockett stepped in, done an admirable job. But, you know, for an offense that really relies so much on Paris Campbell, he's got to be on the field.
Yeah, and he's a difference maker. He slows that defensive down because he can score from anywhere on the field. Him being out really is going to hurt them.
And there was a play right there where he was tackled from behind. You can see him in pain. And even as you saw clips of him after plays, he's still limping around a little bit.
But you guys say it really hurts them, but they're still up 10-0. I mean, they still have guys they can plug in there, and they're getting good play elsewhere, as you guys kind of talked about.
I agree with you, but it's not the same. When he's your home run hitter, everything changes because now you're counting on your second guy to be your first guy, your third guy to be your second guy, and so on down the line. It takes a weapon out of your arsenal.
True.
And it's 10-0, but I would say, would it have been more? I mean, this touchdown they had.
That's how I was going to set you up. Would it be like 17 or 24-0?
Right.
You saw his impact there. That long run set up the touchdown, but that was after good field position on the fumble recovery by Dante Booker. St. V's offense has not been clicking like we usually expect it to be.
And speaking of Booker, I mean, this guy, Mr. Ohio, and he's showing us in multiple ways, not just on defense, but on offense. Guys, that's sick when that happens.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you, that was not a catch in my opinion. I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but this kid's weekend could be capped off with Mr. Ohio, state championship, and possibly all Kavanaugh team.
Yeah, I think both him and Newman are up for consideration to be perhaps the first 2-time all Kavanaugh team members.
But the thing about it is, and we go back to Paris Campbell Jr., but when you have Booker playing the way he is on defense and that St. Vincent St. Mary defense, I mean, 10 points could be enough, guys.
Yeah, the way their defense is playing, if Trotwood Madison doesn't come out, throw the ball successfully early, do something short to get Messiah some confidence, because right now his confidence is shot. Short passes, get him some confidence and get some rhythm going.
One thing, too, I think Akron St. Vincent St. Mary could be up more, but I personally thought on that 4th down, I didn't like that call going to the end zone, that incomplete pass. And there's some other reasons why it's only 10-0, Coach, and one of them is Ryan Reese playing very well for the Rams right now.
Yeah, it's a guy we spotlighted in the pregame. He's only 6'1", 310 pounds. He's first-team All-State defensive tackle. You see here right now, he shuttles his man right there. That was 4th and 1. He tackles a guy for a half-yard loss. That was all him on that play. He stoned the guard, shedded the guard, and then made the tackle. Here he is again. Watch him pursue the quarterback from backside. I'd like to be a quarterback and have that kid tracking you down.
He's moving for a 310-pounder, and I like that the motor keeps going. He doesn't quit on plays. So, but he certainly was a big key.
And to sum it all up, guys, Coach said at halftime, what do they need to do better? They need to run the ball better.
Yeah, they have. I mean, St. V's offense, you mentioned that Trotwood hasn't found a rhythm offensively, but St. V's, they haven't done what they came in doing, which is running the ball on people.
And I think the reason that is because when you're at this stage of the game, week 15, both